Hello everyone, welcome to Rockshire Gaming. My name is Eric. Today we're going to be playing a little bit of catch up with our DCeased coverage, which is CMON's newest game that will be hitting Kickstarter on November 14th. We're going to be going over Dev Diary number 5. We're going to be going over a few other reveals that occurred at a few other conventions and expos over the last week or so. And then we're going to end the video with something that I have been wanting to do for a while, which is basically making my predictions, like final predictions and whatnot, for things that I feel like will be in the DCeased game when it launches during the Kickstarter. So let's go ahead and dive straight into it and see what was going on and what was announced in the last week or so. All right, so first of all, in our little game of catch up we are doing, we are going to be going over Dev Diary number 5, entitled Using What You Have. This article came out on October 31st. Unlike Dev Diary number 4, where I said, like, oh, I didn't know if I was going to do this, but then there was like changes to the system and this, that, and the other. This Dev Diary, I somehow missed completely. I'm going to be completely honest. Full disclosure, on the back end of, or the behind the scenes of this channel, I actually completely did a predictions video where I went over everything that I think may or may not be in the DCeased campaign. And then as I was getting ready to post it, I randomly went to the website and saw that a week ago there was a Dev Diary that had come out that I completely missed, and in some weird ways uh basically created contradictions for myself when I made that prediction video. So basically this is me redoing the whole video and incorporating Dev Diary number 5 into it. Also, that was Halloween. I got kids. I completely missed it with all the trick-or-treating that we did, and I worked that day. Anyway, so we're gonna go ahead and read through this and see what was revealed in this one. So sometimes you just gotta hit a wall with another wall. One of my favorite features added to the Zombicide formula is interactable objects. Given that the setting of this particular outing is the city of Metropolis, we have some fun ones to make use of. Michael Chanel here, designer of DCeased, a Zombicide game, and let's take a look at the various interactable objects that you'll find during your undead apocalypse. So that is the topic of this one: is the various objects on that will be in the scenarios that we'll be able to take a look at. Just what is an interactable object? Glad you asked. One of the features brought to DCeased, a Zombicide game, is the incorporation of various elements that you would typically find in the city that superheroes can make use of to their advantage. While not as exciting as finding a LexCorp Energy Blade or Hawkman's Nth Metal Axe, sometimes the universe just hands you a dumpster, and then sometimes you take that dumpster and hurl it at a large group of zombies. Now, the article is going to go into a little bit more of kind of what the objects do to a point. One of the things I want to point out, though, is they keep on referencing a dumpster in this. The 3 objects they show here, unless I'm very mistaken, there's no dumpster. There is a street lamp right here, and then we've got a phone booth, very reminiscent of like classic. This is where Clark Kent changed into Superman, was in a phone booth. And then we've got the Daily Planet globe. So as we scroll down here into the article, it says various missions might show the location of these objects at setup. I don't know why that took that. Why I couldn't read that. There are 3 that appear in DCeased Zombicide game. When a superhero interacts with these objects, they can pick them up, carrying them with them, and using them as makeshift weapons. So being able to move them across the board in some cases is going to be pretty cool. Basically mean that we don't need to basically just have it sitting where it was initially and throwing it. Some, such as the light posts, give an alright melee attack, but we really know that you want to crack that post like a baseball bat and knock some enemies away, and that's exactly what you can do. So basically this light post right here is going to be an object that will push enemies probably out of a zone, giving you a little bit more not wiggle room, but give it a little bit more maneuverability in the game. I believe it is one-time use, though. Typically destroyed in one use, interactable objects can be the difference between success and failure. If properly utilized by the players. As mentioned above, the light post allows you to perform a special mighty swing, knocking nearby enemies away. The dumpster, which I don't see, meanwhile, can crush almost all enemies in a single zone. Combine them, and you get the idea. So most likely the dumpster or the phone booth, I'm not sure what they're referring to, unless it's a double-sided item. The dumpster will probably knock out walkers and runners. It might not take out brutes. It definitely won't take out. You're not going to be taking out the zombie Superman with a dumpster. That's just science. Aside from those two, we also have the addition of the globe, the Daily Planet globe. That is, yes, this large adornment, which formerly rested upon its namesake building, can be used by the players against the zombie hordes, probably in exactly the way you're imagining in your head right now. Yes, being a fair bit more durable than a light post or dumpster, the Daily Planet globe can be sent rolling down the streets of Metropolis, potentially crushing and knocking everything in its way aside, and it might even survive that move to be used against. This is probably going to be very similar to the Avengers sign in Marvel Zombies, to where it can be used at least more than once. I know in the Avengers sign can be used, I think, twice. So we'll see how the globe works. Interactable objects are just another fun tool included in the overall playground that is DCeased Zombicide game. Metropolis. Yes, the situation is dire. Yes, lives are on the line. Yes, the world might very well be ending, and it's up to you to save whomever you can. But sometimes you can just take a moment to appreciate the simple joy of hurling debris into a pack of zombies and crushing them underneath. It's the little things that can get you through a tough situation. So, interactable terrain right there. I do kind of wonder if they are going to do a stretch goal, not stretch goal, if they're going to do an add-on pack during the campaign to give like 3D versions of these, very similar to, again, going back to White Death, how they had the 3D walls as an add-on, and I think the token packs had 3D cauldrons for that game. So we'll see. I mean, if not, I mean, I'm sure people will make 3D versions of these things, but it'd be kind of cool to see what happens with that. But that was a very short update on Dev Diary number 5. Not too big of an update. No real gameplay things on here. We already have interactable terrain in other superhero-y zombicide games, but this is kind of cool that we're going to have more than one in the core box, and I'm hoping that they will have other interactable terrain in other expansion boxes as we move through the campaign in 7 days, I think is when, or no, 8 days when the campaign starts. So that is that. So next we are going to go ahead and take a look at other things that were announced, and for that we need my handy dandy spreadsheet again. So at the Luca Comics and Games convention that was going on this past week or so, CMON did show off some painted miniatures for DCeased, basically showing off the rest of the core box, essentially. There was a couple of figures that we hadn't seen. We haven't seen any of the LexCorp soldiers, which those were all shown there. And the only reason I'm not showing pictures of that is because those were the only thing I could find was from the Facebook groups, is just people posting the pictures or taking pictures there, and I didn't want to take their pictures and post them on the channel necessarily. So that's why I'm not showing them here. If you're part of the Facebook groups, you probably already saw them. If not, look for them on Facebook. So they did show that we are getting Martian Manhunter as the 6th zombie in the game, filling that spot up. And then we also did get Green Arrow as the 8th playable hero in the game. He is going to be a living character. He was alive during most of the storyline for DCeased anyway. Martian Manhunter, when you finally see him in the main DCeased comic, he was a zombie. You do see how he becomes a zombie in one of the side miniseries, Hope at World's End. But yeah, those two were confirmed, as well as the final 8th bystander. I'm assuming the final 8th bystander, Lana Lang. Again, when we compare this to Marvel Zombies, which with Marvel Zombies slowly making its way into North America right now, and people maybe getting it by the time this campaign starts. You will notice in that game that there are 12 bystanders. I think that DCeased is only going to stick with 8 bystanders because of the fact that we do get the added benefit of equipment in DCeased that we don't get in Marvel Zombies. So that will probably even that out a little bit, that gear out a little bit. And if you notice, if you can read it, that I do have something highlighted in blue there marked as a stretch goal. They did reveal at the CMON Expo in Bangkok, Thailand, that Blue Beetle, Jamie Reese, will be a stretch goal in the game. The only video I could see of that, the audio wasn't that good. Basically, the person was just kind of streaming it from their smartphone right there, so the microphone didn't pick up a lot. It was just a lot of background noise. You really had to listen in to kind of hear what they were saying. But again, they did confirm that Blue Beetle would be in the game. He is going to be an early stretch goal, maybe the first stretch goal. We'll see. If I remember correctly, the character did make an appearance in the first miniseries, and it was only for a few panels. So again, this kind of goes back to them wanting to highlight, CMON wanting to highlight characters who maybe didn't have a role or that big of a role in the DC storyline, but still want to pull as much as they can from the rest of the DCU to try to fill out or fill in some of those a lot of the stretch goals and the expansions and all that kind of stuff. Other things that were announced at the expo were, let's see, because I've got notes on a spreadsheet here, and then I've got notes here. They did announce, one, that there would be a retail version of DCeased hitting stores in lieu of, or instead of, 2-wave shipping. So we're not going to get 2-wave shipping for DCeased, but we will get a slimmed down box that has a slightly different experience than the main game. So more than likely, this means that we're going to get like a Heroes Resistance version of DCeased coming down the road, possibly with standees. They haven't announced anything else really or gone into any more about that. So it'd be interesting to see how that is, and it'd be kind of cool to basically get a taste of DCeased, to be able to play it while we're still waiting for the other one, because based on other recent games from CMON, unfortunately, this game is going to be hitting Kickstarter at the end of 2023. We are probably not going to get this game to our doorsteps until 2025. I'm just, that's the first prediction in this prediction video. I'm saying 2025, unfortunately. The other thing is, and for all of you who have second edition Zombicide with the Dark Knight's Metal expansions or add-ons or whatever you want to call them, the Dark Knight's Metal packs, they are going to give all backers the cards for the crossover pack, essentially, that you can play with the Dark Knight's Metal figures and characters in DCeased. They're going to have the cards so you can play as them as heroes and fight the zombies with the different ones. I don't know how, Wonder Woman's going to team up with the Batman Who Laughs. But they're also going to have, they also showed the zombie spawn cards for all the characters in Dark Knight's Metal. So again, they're not advertising that you would be able to play characters as the zombies and fight the living heroes. They're still sticking with the fact that this game is being played. You are the living heroes in this game. So far, no real indications that they're going to have a zombie mode. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at my other spreadsheet I have, where I kind of go through and we're going to go ahead and predict kind of what expansions I feel like might be in the game and other characters that I feel like will be in the game based on literally just combing through after I read through the whole event. And that's the main DCeased original storyline, the Hope at World's End side story, the Unkillable side story. There was a one-shot in there that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. The Dead Planet storyline, the War of the Undead Gods finale to the whole thing. Going through there, picking apart every character that I can find, or near every character I can find, and trying to figure out where they may or may not go in an expansion. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. And here first is my part of the spreadsheet where I guess at what expansions might come out. Some of this is based off of how the expansions worked in Marvel Zombies. I know that this probably will not work out the same way. As an exercise of myself, I did something very similar to this for Marvel United X-Men, and I did this with Jake on Marvel United Multiverse. We kind of guessed what we were going to do. I decided to just go ahead and do this myself, kind of share it with you guys. And this is the part of the video where I kind of want to hear from you. I would like to know what you guys think as you're kind of watching through this and clicking away at the keyboard at me. What characters or what kind of expansions you think might also be in DCeased, kind of little fun exercises to what could or could not be in the game. So comment with that below, and while you're down there commenting, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, helps me out a lot while we're doing these videos. So the first box I have up here, and I was marking the actual thing over here. So the first box I have written up here, I'm guessing with calling it Gotham Resistance, again going off the X-Men Resistance title, but this I feel like is going to be a Gotham centric expansion, or even a second core, because of the fact that they're making such a big deal about the main game being a Metropolis core box. I thought, you know what, if they're going to do a second core, it's going to be based on Gotham. It's not going to be based on Coast City. It's not going to be based on Central City or anything like that. Again, that kind of goes back to the whole Marvel Zombies aspect, is that every location that they introduce in, for the most part, in Marvel Zombies was just another location in New York. You had the main New York streets with the various Marvel locales there. I think the Sinister Six box has Central Park in it. The X-Men has Westchester with the X-Mansion. The Fantastic Four has Four Freedoms Plaza, or the Baxter Building with their tiles and everything. So for this, I feel like the tiles would be various locations in Gotham City, and I put a slew of characters right through here. Now, again, living heroes wise, I've got Nightwing and Robin over here. I got the Signal over here. I got, spoiler, Batgirl, Batwoman. The only reason I have them in the anti-living section is because the only time they appear in the miniseries themselves is when they were already turned. Same thing with Nightwing and Robin. Again, it was kind of difficult to figure out where to put them. I feel like most people buying this game, if they're going to want to play as Nightwing or Tim Drake Robin, they're going to want to do it as living, partnered with Batman. Even Batgirl too. Like I said, it was really difficult to basically say which side they would be on. They might all be on the living side, but again, I don't think all the villains would be on the undead side. So there's, like I said, this is basically just a bunch of Batman characters that I feel like would be in the game, with a bunch of the Batman bystanders there: Harvey Bullock, Renee Montoya, Vicky Vale, Alfred Pennyworth, Pre-Spectre, Harold Allnut, Tala al Ghul, Leslie Tompkins, and Crispus Allen, Pre-Spectre, all over there in the bystanders section. I did not put Jim Gordon in there specifically, or the Cassandra Cain version of Batgirl, or Jason Todd Red Hood, because underneath that, I feel like they would be in an Unkillables box if there is an expansion based on that specific comic, that specific side story, that I feel like those characters deserve their own spot. I know some of them appear in the Dead Planet, which is basically the part 2 of the whole trilogy, but they basically had more relevance, I feel like, in the Unkillables storyline. So as well as Deathstroke, that's the main place where he was, Ravager, Bane being turned into a zombie during that event. So, and then I got Billy Batson there because Captain Marvel Shazam never really showed up in the event at all. I think if I remember the story correctly, he never became Shazam, or never became Captain Marvel, whichever name they're using these days. Never transformed because of the fact that he didn't want to, in case he got infected, he didn't want to have, Shazam basically lightning bolting everybody. So I do believe Billy was a zombie. Like Billy himself was a zombie, but I would put him as a bystander if they made an unkillable box. Below that, I've got Siege of Gotham. Now, to me, Siege of Gotham Jungle can go higher, maybe even be the second core if they decide to do that. Again, there's a lot of evidence to show that they may not do a second core, or they're just not mentioning any of it because they are going to do it and they just don't want to reveal that yet. Could also be that DC Warner Brothers is not going to let them make it to where they can play as the zombies, or we can play as the zombies, which unfortunately means we would lose 50% of gameplay compared to the Rivals game, the game based on the rival company. But regardless, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, I definitely feel like should be living heroes in a Gotham Jungle setting. And I think that expansion would be kind of cool if there was a siege mode where they fight against Black Adam and an oversized possible Atom Smasher with a bunch of different zombies, just because it was a pretty cool scene in the Hope at World's End miniseries. Just the fact that they built that whole thing up to the fact that Black Adam was just like tearing through cities and whatnot. So I definitely believe Black Adam should be a big part of the event. I don't think they should be relegated just to the stretch goal box. I definitely think he should be a basically headline, almost an expansion to the game. And again, because of the fact that the climax of Hope at World's End, the fight with him in the Gotham Jungle, I think that's why Harley and Poison Ivy should be an expansion with that. Also Pied Piper and the Airy, because they were kind of instrumental in distracting or taking out basically the zombie army that was heading for the Gotham Jungle. So, and Lex Luthor had some stuff to do with that, but he's already in the core box, so we can't add him here. So there is that. Next thing I have in that left-hand column there is just, I wrote Spectre and Mxyzptlk in a blank expansion. That to me was more, I cannot remember the name of the characters essentially, but in Undead or Alive, Zombicide Undead or Alive, there is a small mini expansion that is just a, not King Kong versus not Godzilla. And I think that would be a cool expansion or mini expansion for the game, because they do have a big giant fight, these two characters, the Spectre and Mxyzptlk, in War of the Undead Gods, that depending on how you look at it, Spectre lost and won. But yeah, I think it would be cool to have something showcasing those two characters in the game, even if it's not like a big major expansion. Something to showcase that they had some importance to the storyline. Back into the top, in the top right, this isn't so much of an expansion. I was kind of trying to think of something next gen that wasn't necessarily just Teen Titans versus Teen Titan villains. The Jonathan Kent version of Superman, the Damian Wayne version of Batman, and Cassie Sandsmark as Wonder Woman eventually. Those three characters grew a lot during the course of the storyline, that again, I don't think they would be necessarily regulated to just being stretch goals. Damian is the only one that I would kind of be worried that his stretch goal or his appearance would be as Robin, since we are getting the Bruce Wayne version of Batman. Even though in the comic, Damian was Batman for like 80% of the whole entirety of the story. It took him a little bit in the first mini to be Batman, but he eventually, he quickly became Batman. And he did a very good job of being, and ironically, emotionally stable Batman. So I think some kind of focus on those three characters, or those characters in some kind of expansion, would be good. I don't think they should be regulated to stretch goals. They may still be. Who knows? I don't, because I'm just guessing at this point. But that is that. Next one to have here is Rogues. I feel like the Flash Rogues, as much, maybe not as much, but I feel like on par with the Batman Rogues, the Flash Rogues are probably the next most famous Rogues gallery, even before the Flash TV series that DC has. And so since I feel like a core, in my mind, a second core box would feature primarily the Batman villains, that there should be an expansion similar to the Sinister Six one in Marvel Zombies that would feature the various um, rogues from the Flash's Rogues gallery, especially because Captain Cold and Mirror Master were pretty big parts of the Unkillables story arc in DCeased, and then kind of just throwing a lot of other Flash Rogues in there. I put the few in here I could. There is way more Flash villains that could be in the game, possibly again as stretch goals, but I feel like a even like a PvP mode box would be pretty awesome to have. Also, who doesn't want to see zombie Gorilla Grodd with potentially some kind of telepathic power? I think it would be pretty awesome. Next down here, I mentioned that I would like to have something around the Shadow Pack characters with Trigun as almost like a challenge mode. Basically, him being like a somewhat oversized mini. I'm talking like, I've got Optimus Prime right here, which is probably a little bit bigger than what Superman is going to be in the game, but I mean like something like this big. I think that would be good for like a Trigun figure, and having John Constantine, Zatanna, Dr. Fate, and Swamp Thing kind of going after him. I know Trigun is usually more of a Teen Titans character, but the Teen Titans in their most popular forms over the years were not in DCeased, so that's why again I would have John Constantine, because he did go toe to toe with Trigun during the Dead Planet storyline. So yeah, those magical characters with Trigun in some fashion is what I would like to see. Also, because of the fact that the third mini spent so much time with it, I think something having to do with the New Gods over here, especially around Darkseid, since he's the one that essentially started the whole event in the comics. Something having to do with Darkseid, possibly even him being a challenge mode of some sort himself with DCeased, Granny Goodness, and Black Racer, who is another instrumental aspect of the anti-life virus spreading across everything. I think would be a must-have as far as an expansion goes. I really would hope Darkseid himself would not be a stretch goal. I think, like I said, like Thanos in Marvel Zombies, I think he would do well as a expansion that can be bought at retail with Kickstarter exclusive goodies or alternate forms for the Kickstarter itself. Those are my ideas and my hopes and whatnot for expansions for the game. I'm probably wrong on most of it. The other thing I got over here on the side there is some ideas for large figures for the game. I already talked about Trigun, I already talked about Atom Smasher, but Giganta and Spectre would be okay as giant figures. I don't think these are going to be figures, though, that are going to be Galactus size. I am still hoping that we don't get Galactus size figure in this game. I don't think it's needed. We will, once I get Marvel Zombies and we go through a lot of it, we will be doing on the channel and depending on how you guys are receiving those videos, we will try to do the Galactus mode fights on the channel. But again, like with how big that figure is and how few scenarios involve him, I don't necessarily want to see that with DCeased. I would rather see a few slightly larger figures, and I mean larger figures as in like this size. This is the size I want. Like regular figures about this size. I want something about this size for some of these characters. I don't think they need to be much bigger than that. I'm gonna say that until I see what if there is a big figure and who it is, and I might change my tone. But anyway, Giganta, Plastic Man being that like red plastic sea around that fortress where Penguin's hiding out in Dead Planet. That was kind of freaky. That's something. So that is something there that they can do. Erebos, even though he is the big bad finally at the end of the third mini of the series, I don't think the few appearances we have of him and the fact that no one actually fought him. To me, it doesn't warrant having a big giant miniature of him. Also, the fact that the Galactus figure had a zombie mode and a living mode, and I don't really see any large figures, large characters in that were shown to be able to do that. You can't have a zombie Spectre and a regular Spectre. You know what I mean? So that's the thing there. Then under where I have Horde zombies down there, Horde characters. Again, GCPD would be another nominee for living Horde characters in the Gotham box. Penguin and Dr. Ivo's Army of Amazos from Dead Planet would be awesome. Maybe have them as their own zombie type, separate from the walkers and the runners in the game, somewhere like on a brute level, or maybe slightly higher than a brute level, like another big challenge to basically go through the board. The soldiers from Rand and Thanagar, maybe Adam Strange shows up for like a couple of panels in War of the Undead Gods to spread the virus to those other planets. So those would be kind of cool to have in there. It's not necessarily. And then again, Kryptonians, because there was an army of Kryptonians at the end of that miniseries. So the War of the Undead God one. So I just throwing out some ideas of things they could do with that. Let me know if any of these make sense to you and which one of those you would like to see. Finally, last thing we're going to look at on here is my list of all the other characters that appear in the comic that possibly would have a shot at stretch goals. I counted through these lists. I have, between what we've already seen, what has been revealed, and what I'm getting ready to show, over 100 characters. Now, yes, there's a lot of characters again in Marvel Zombies, but they had a living mode and a zombie mode. Like there was a living version of the character and a zombie version of the character. Not saying we're not going to get that in DCeased. Whether or not we can play as the zombie or fight the living hero is going to be a whole nother thing. But not counting a character with a zombie mode and a living mode, you're still counting them as one character. I basically have counted over 100 characters on these lists. So, yeah, take that as you will. We have plenty of characters we can throw in there before we even get into those extra pop culture characters that the designers have alluded to. So to run down this list of living heroes, and I put everything in living. I didn't put that much in anti-living because some of the characters, if they do give them a living mode and a zombie mode, it doesn't matter what they were in the comic. I mean, Mara was never a zombie in the comic, but who's to say that we can't give her a zombie mode in this game? It's a board game based on a comic book. So, whatever we can do, that as long as it's awesome, let it stand. But running down of all the different characters that they could throw in here that made appearances in the comic, we've got Mara, we've got Black Lightning, Captain Atom. I have highlighted in red because I would like to see some kind of challenge mode with the fact that he in the comic blew up Metropolis, I think in the 3rd or 4th issue. Some kind of mode where we have to stop him from blowing up, like take him out before he blows up, would be pretty cool. Then we got Mr. Terrific, Mr. Miracle. Red Tornado was in a panel with Power Girl was also in a panel of a page of a comic. Firestorm made a couple appearances, Queen Hippolyta, and any of the Amazons of Themyscira would be cool to have in the game. We got Ares showed up for a little bit. Lobo showed up in the comic. Red Arrow / Arsenal showed up as well. I've already talked about Blue Beetle, Jamie Reese. I didn't take him out of this list after I put him in the other list. Raza Katua and Manticore, they show up in Hope at World's End, fighting against zombie Black Adam at one point. We've got Black Manta. I didn't say Black Manta already, right? No, Black Manta showed up for a while. Lady Shiva showed up in Unkillables. Vandal Savage was there. Creeper, Penguin. Dead Man would be cool. I don't think he would be because he's a ghost, he wouldn't be an anti-living at all, so he would definitely be completely in the living hero side. Phantom Stranger would be cool to have either as a regular character here or a bystander, as I put in my other list. Professor Ivo, possibly having something to do with the Amazos would be interesting. That might actually be a good contender for like a Sentinel style expansion there. Supergirl, which was the most confusing introduction because I think she was in like a panel or two of the first miniseries, and then she basically got a whole different origin of the third miniseries. So there's that. Madame Xanadu, which the only reason I put her in here is because her uh, Mystic shop is in Metropolis, which is shown on a tile in the game. I forgot to talk about it completely before, but Board Game Co. did a unboxing video of the game already, showed off the cards. I didn't want to show them off here because, again, I don't want to take screen grabs from his channel. A lot of that stuff is on Facebook, or you can check out his video, which I might link down below anyway. But that was in there as well. I'm going to dovetail off there too. That was one of the other things I did forget to talk about was they showed in that video, or he showed in that video, that there are going to be icons on the board for the equipment. So I was kind of right on that basically equipment was going to be spots on the board. I was very excited to see that, and I was like, I was right about something. I did the whole Leonardo DiCaprio thing where I was like, yeah, yeah. Anyway, Madame Xanadu, Adam Strange, we already talked about. Brainiac, Maximum Prima, Aqualad was a zombie in the story. Adam was a zombie in the story. We got Beast Boy, Big Bardo spent a lot of time as a zombie. Let's throw Pa Kent, Cat Grant, sure, Iris West, Linda Park in there as bystanders. These are all different characters that I had started listing as living heroes, anti-living heroes, bystanders. And then I decided to switch over things to just characters that were in the game or characters I would like to see. And that's why I have the hopefuls. We'll get to that last. The Green Lanterns all showed up. Jon Stewart, Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, Kyle Rayner, Saranic Natu. They all showed up in the comic at different points. The Sinestro Corps showed up. Sinestro was in there. His whole legion was in there. I think Sinestro actually gets killed at one point and his ring goes to Darkseid. So there's that. The Speedsters, the Wally West version of the Flash, the other Wally West version of Kid Flash, Impulse, Max Mercury, Jesse Quick, they made an appearance in one issue of Hope at World's End, where they, I believe, escape to the Speed Force because they know with their speed that they would basically just tear through and infect all the people with the zombie virus. So they basically just escaped into the Speed Force. Other mystic characters that were in the various miniseries, Etrigan, Blue Devil, Ragman were there. Mary Marvel had shown up. Freddie Freeman was a zombie for most of it. I think they found him in the Rock of Eternity. Blue Beetle, Ted Kord, Booster Gold, Fire and Ice were all in the book, and I think most of them turned by the end of the one miniseries, or the one shot that I can't think of the name of. Beast Boy, I already mentioned him, but Starfire and Raven are the only other Teen Titans, at least from Teen Titans, the cartoon, and Teen Titans Go, that weren't in the series, that I'm sure are going to make their way into it just because of how popular, especially Teen Titans Go is at this point. So that is all the characters that could be in the game and maybe in the game, and I would like to see most of these in the game just as a DC fan. Yeah, I would just love to see all these things. Under here I have hopefuls, different versions of characters from other media like they talked about that I think would be cool. I don't know why, but I would love to see Batman and Robin from the 1966 series fighting off zombies. I don't know why. Just Adam West and Burt Ward, that two scene against a bunch of zombies, I think would be awesome. Also, throwing in a Batman somehow based off of the 1989 Michael Keaton Batman would be cool. I kind of wonder how many of the characters are going to have a Batman version, but we will see. I do have the Wonder Twins on here. They were from primarily Super Friends, but I think they would be kind of cool. It'd be actually a little freaky if they showed up as zombies in the game. I think that would be funny. And then I got Marvin, Wendy, and Wonder Dog. They were the other teen sidekicks to the Super Friends back in the day. The main reason why I threw them in here is because there was a Teen Titans storyline in the 2000s where they were the groundskeepers for Titans Tower, and apparently Wonder Dog in that storyline was a demon dog that they didn't know about, and he basically just murdered Marvin and injured Wendy. So I don't know why I thought about that with this game, but I feel like that would be pretty cool, if not obscure, thing to add in. So yeah, I am here for all of this. So yeah, that is everything that I predict in some fashion will be in DCeased. Let me know down below in the comments what you think is going to be in DCeased, and if you're watching this after November 14th, or you're watching this between November 14th and November 30th, because that will probably be how long the campaign goes to. The Marvel Zombies was 2 weeks and 2 days long, so I'm guessing that's what we're going to get for this. So that would put it at, I guess it said 14 days from the 14th would be the 28th. So sometime between the 29th and 30th, the campaign will be over. Please don't laugh at me. If you go back and watch this video during the campaign, please don't laugh at me too much about all the things I got wrong. Maybe we will do a video once the campaign wraps up of all the things I did get right and all the things I did get wrong. Maybe I will update this list with those things. But that is going to be that for now. Between now and the 14th, there may or may not be another dev diary. Possibly if they change traits a lot in this game from other Zombicide games. I might do a video going over that dev diary, and if they do a dev diary where they finally announce a playable zombie core, I will definitely be doing that. If not, if they don't do anything like that, or they don't put out another dev diary in the next 8 days, then I will probably see you guys on day 1 of Zombicide DCeased coverage. Real quick, for those of you who do not or have not seen our videos on when we cover like a CMON game like that, I will be doing a video very late at night on the first day, going over everything that was revealed on the first day. And then after that, I will do a video whenever a new expansion is released, or whenever a new expansion is announced, and kind of going over all the updates between expansion announcements, and then finally doing a video on the final day going over the last day's announcements. I'm going to try to actually do maybe even a live stream counting down the end of that campaign. We will see. So like I said, if you were interested in any of those things, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when these and other videos are coming out. And I think that's it. Like the video, all that stuff. And we will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.